someone who is in a wheelchair. Or maybe we think we know them. But do we really?
In one word, how would you describe Challenge Alaska?
Brutal, painful, crazy.
These hills, these guys are lunatics. Now notice the hands. This is after a 48-mile distance. Like they have a big hole in his hand right over here. This course has just defeated me.
Yes, so why would you want to do such a thing? Stephen Barber is the filmmaker of Unbeaten. You just saw a clip from the film, and he's in town in Vancouver from LA to check out the Paralympics and to promote his documentary. Thanks for coming in this afternoon.
Thanks for having me. This is fantastic.
So we heard things like lunatics, brutal, crazy. Your own poster here says 267 miles, 6 days, 3 wheels, 1 goal, survive.
Survive.
What is this thing? Why would you want to do something like this?
You know, these people are the elite. In fact, the 3 gentlemen that I followed were in the Paralympics. I followed them over to Beijing. And it started out by just helping a guy in a wheelchair about 3.5 years ago, and it's grown organically. Dan Aykroyd heard about it, lent his voice, lent money to it. Clint Black heard about it, wrote a song.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's called A Better Life, and we're actually qualified for Oscar for 2011. I don't know if we're going to win, but I never did this to win an Oscar. I did this to help a guy in a wheelchair.
You did it to help a guy in a wheelchair, and you'd met him in your garage. He was just doing some work. He's a guy in a wheelchair. And tell us how it all unfolded and what the race is about.
Well, you know, I'd seen him for 10 years working on my friend's brakes, and that was just the one, about in year 10, I asked him, you know, we started chatting. It was just that was the year we started talking to each other. And then he told me about this race, and I said, you know something, I've got a guy, John Paul DeJoria, the CEO of Paul Mitchell. He's
of the hair company?
Yeah, the hair guy. Yeah, the hair guy. That's what and he's actually, he and Dan Aykroyd are best friends. They're in business together.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And long story short, I said, hey, money, would you write me a check? He said, absolutely. And then he said, hey, can I bring a couple of my friends? So all of a sudden, it kept growing, grew right. So then we started Team Paul Mitchell. So then I took him up to Alaska, and when I got up there, I hadn't really intended on doing a documentary. It was just to try to help these guys.
Right. And this is where the big race takes place.
Yeah, between Fairbanks and Anchorage, about 55 miles a day, 267 miles in wheelchairs, 10,000-foot elevations. And what happens is these guys are the elite of the elite. They kind of feel whole again. It kind of makes them whole again. It's hard to explain, but because they've lost their legs, something else has come to attrition. It's and I can't explain it to you, but they've grown spirits.
Had you been very aware of the accomplishments of disabled athletes before you got involved in this?
And I would love to tell you that I am some sort of proponent for the disabled, or I was, but I wasn't. I am now, and I'm up here for the Paralympics to promote this because, as most Americans, we have no education on this. We're not told about it. In fact, there's no, right now, coverage of the Paralympics, like almost zero in the States.
Really?
It's horrible. So my goal for 2012 London is to have Fox, NBC, CBS, global. I want everyone global. But my goal is to get the entire media up there because these people are worth watching. I was at the opening ceremonies here. 60,000 people in the stadiums. I mean, this was good television. I mean, a guy breakdancing on crutches.
Oh, wasn't that incredible?
It was incredible.
What was it like in Beijing in 2008 for the Paralympics?
Beijing was amazing. There was because what happens is the Chinese brought in people from the country and they let them come in for free. So every night there was 100,000 people in the bird's nest. And I mean, it's pretty easy to run the 100 meters when you have 2 legs and 2 arms. Try it with 1 arm and 1 leg and blind. I mean, this is gripping. And so what's really unique about these is if people actually get a chance to watch the events, they're going to want to see more. It's just, there's no way. You don't have to be disabled to appreciate these games. In fact, if you're able, you're going to appreciate them more because there's a thing called gratitude. I really appreciate my arms. I really appreciate my legs. I never did.
Well, watching these guys in your documentary and doing this huge race, 267 miles, I mean, look at them go. What did you learn? What surprised you about their efforts?
What's
about who they were?
Is that they are doing this, because I have to say that I'm a mountain biker, and the suicide and depression rate's really heavy in the disabled community. And I don't know if I could be one of these guys. I'd like to think I could, especially now that I've been exposed to it. But what I was blown away by is they've lost their legs, and what life in a wheelchair is not pleasant. And yet they've said, you know what? I got a bad set of cards, but I decided to change that. And because I've come up here, I've been working with this company. Now the thing just it doesn't stop growing. Now I'm working with a company called Neurokinetics with a Dr. Philippe Silvestre, and he's working with brain injury and Paralympians and paraplegics, and he's helping them. And I don't know where it's going to go from there. And if people get a chance, I would like to do a shameless plug.
Absolutely, feel free.
Because I want as many people to see this movie as possible. We give away part of the proceeds to the Disabled Foundation and the Challenged Athletes Foundation, which just has about $25 million worth of prosthetics that they've bought for people so far. It's unbeatenthemovie.com.
Right. And you can buy the DVD. Yeah,
you can buy the DVD. We give a piece back to CAF, which is the Challenged Athletes Foundation, and also neurokinetics.com, which Mick Mathuzak and Dr. Philippe Silvestre, who are my new associates up here, because they are working with, they've worked with the French astronauts and they've worked with brain injury, so it's all pretty exciting.
I have to wrap, but just before I wrap, I just want one more question. These guys who were featured in your movie, who are Paralympians, how do they feel about the sort of lack of attention that happens after the Olympic Games? I mean, certainly here we'd like to think we're giving them a lot of attention, but I know it's nothing like what the Olympics get.
Well, you're doing a better job than anybody's ever done before in history, honestly. Beijing was off the... You know what? They're used to it. They get two reactions. The one guy, Chris Kohler, who's in my movie, he says, I get two reactions. When I'm at Walmart, somebody comes up to me and says, hey, I got an Uncle Bob in a wheelchair. Or they won't look at me. So they're used to it, but they would like more attention, absolutely.
Well, if you keep wearing this monitor on your chest, you're definitely going to...
This is called video name tag. A friend of mine invented this, and I just do this to simply promote the film. Whatever I can do to shed the light on the disabled athlete, I'm doing, and I have become a huge proponent for these folks. They are worth your time. They're worth watching. They're worth supporting.
I want one of those video name tags. No, don't give me yours. All right, unbeatenthemovie.com, and Stephen Barber is the filmmaker. Definitely check it out. Worthwhile cause, and especially during this time of the Paralympics.
Global TV rocks.
I like this guy. We're going to keep him here in Vancouver. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Well, they are tiny.